You know, when we think about horror, our minds usually jump to monsters or maybe jump scares. But what if the whole experience is something way deeper? What if it's really a confrontation with the very edges of who we are? It's about finding those fragile frontiers that hold our sense of I together and watching them start to crumble. Let's really dig into what that means.
Because that's the real question here, isn't it? What if the true terror isn't some creature lurking in the shadows, but a crisis happening inside of you? The fear that the you that you think you know could just dissolve. And that's the big idea we're going to unpack. Horror isn't just a story. It's an experience that shows us that maybe we're not as solid as we think. It throws us into this chaotic space where the self gets overwhelmed and just starts to come undone.
So here's how we're going to explore this. First, we'll quickly touch on this idea of the horror of the self. Then we'll look at it through three really powerful lenses: Freud's idea of the uncanny, Bataille's theory of transgression, and Kristeva's concept of the abject. And stick with me, because at the end, we're going to see why these old ideas are more important right now than ever before.
So, at its core, horror is what you could call an experience limit. It's that terrifying moment where all the usual things that tell you who you are, your job, your name, your routines, they all get stripped away. And in that moment, you're forced to see just how shaky the borders of your own self actually are. All right, our first lens comes from the one and only Sigmund Freud. Back in 1919, he wrote this amazing essay about a very specific and creepy feeling he called the Unheimliche, which we now translate as the uncanny. And this is the absolute key to understanding it. The uncanny isn't about something brand new or shocking. No. It's the horror of something familiar twisting into something strange. It's that bone-chilling feeling you get when you see something you recognize, but you know deep down it was supposed to stay buried, locked away, and hidden forever. Now this is where it gets really cool. Just look at the German words themselves. The word Heimlich can mean familiar, cozy, like home, but it can also mean concealed or hidden from sight. So the thing that's most familiar to us is also the thing that's most hidden. And when that hidden thing suddenly pops out into the open, Heimlich flips into its terrifying opposite, unheimlich. How wild is that? Freud actually borrowed this idea from the philosopher Schelling, who put it perfectly. The uncanny is everything that was supposed to stay secret, but didn't. It's the secret bursting out and messing with our reality. So where does this feeling pop up? Well, Freud said it's when our repressed childhood fears come bubbling back up. You see this all the time in horror stories about creepy dolls or evil twins. Or it's when those old, primitive beliefs we thought we were too smart for, like ghosts or evil spirits, suddenly feel terrifyingly real again. It's that moment the world feels alien and you realize you're not as in control as you thought. Okay, so if Freud showed us the horror of what comes back against our will, our next thinker, Georges Bataille, takes a totally different path. He was interested in a strange, deep-down desire we all seem to have to break our own boundaries, to just let go.
This quote right here gets to the very heart of his work. For Bataille, the most powerful human experiences like eroticism or even horror push us right to the edge. They're about saying yes to life so completely and so intensely that you're also saying yes to the idea of your own dissolution, even death.
So Bataille's argument basically goes like this. We live our lives as separate little islands, right? But deep down, we're nostalgic for a time before we were separate, when we were connected to everything. Society and all its rules are built to keep us on our own little islands. But transgression, whether it's through intense passion or intense horror, is us violently smashing those rules for just a moment to get a thrilling glimpse of what it feels like to be connected again.
And this brings us to our third and final lens, from Julia Kristeva. So think about it. Freud is about what's pushed down. Bataille is about breaking out. Kristeva is about what we have to violently push away from ourselves just to have a self in the first place.
She calls this the abject. Now, the abject isn't an object you can point at, and it's not a part of you, the subject. It's the stuff in between that threatens that whole system. It's everything we have to reject with pure disgust, just so we can say, I am me, and I am not that. You could say the abject is the ultimate border crosser.
But here is the really bizarre part. The abject isn't just gross, it's also fascinating. As Kristeva puts it, it's right there, so close, and it kind of calls to us. It disturbs and fascinates us at the exact same time. It's this unbearable magnetic pull of attraction and total repulsion.
And we all know this feeling, instinctively. It's our reaction to bodily fluids, to rot and decay, to seeing a corpse. These things are abject because they totally blur the clean lines we like to draw between our living, contained bodies and, well, everything else. They remind us that we're made of matter that can break down, and that's a truth we spend our lives trying to push away.
So, Freud, Bataille, Kristeva, why are we digging up these pretty heavy theories today? Well, because all of these ancient fears about our own identity dissolving are playing out in brand new and honestly pretty terrifying ways right now.
Just think about Freud's uncanny. Ever heard of the uncanny valley with AI and robots? That's it. That's Freud's theory in action. We're creating these doubles of ourselves that are almost human, but not quite, and it creeps us out. It's the old horror of the doppelganger brought back to life for the digital age. Or how about Bataille? Social media is basically a giant playground for his ideas. We spend all this time building up our unique individual profile, our brand. But then we also dive headfirst into trends and memes, dissolving our carefully built self into the hive mind of the internet. It's that exact same tension. And Kristeva's theory of the object, it gives us a really powerful, if unsettling way to understand some of today's most intense political conflicts. The whole mechanism of othering, of treating a group of people like they're a threat to be expelled, often uses the logic of objection. It's about casting a group out in order to define a so-called pure national or political identity. So when you put it all together, if horror has always been a kind of mirror, showing us the cracks in the foundation of our own identity, it leaves us with one last massive question. What is our modern horror, from AI nightmares to political thrillers, really tell us about the state of ourselves right here, right now?